Oos. Martial arts spinning turning techniques effective in a fight. So I have a subscriber asked me if the spinning techniques are effective because they see me with the kamos, the martial art weapons, the sais, the katana sword, and they're wondering, if turning around like that, kind of giving you back, is that a smart thing to do in a fight, in a real situation, or in even combat sports or whatever, right? Usually, when you're turning your body or you're spinning around, you're actually generating a lot more power in that technique. Now, it all depends on the person that's doing the technique now, like I always say. It's not the style, it's the person who is training that style, right? You can have one guy that execute the spinning technique, gets countered, and get knocked out by his opponent. Or you can have a next guy that does a spinning back kick and then knocks out his opponent. So it all depends on the person that's doing the spinning around. And usually when you spin, you usually spot your target first. You see where you're going to hit first or what you're going to hit. And then when you spin around, you look first before you execute a kick or a back fist or a spinning heel kick. Or before you maybe strike with a weapon, right? You always want to spot. And when you're turning, you look where you're going to hit still because that person who you spot could move. But all this is done in one motion, which I mentioned all depends on the person that's executing the spinning technique now. Because if you don't train it consistently and have experience in actually executing the technique on a real object, not just a punching bag, on an actual person, a moving target, it's going to be a whole different thing for you when you do actually use it in a real situation, because that's where the experience comes into play and the knowledge of understanding that technique and also how to defend against it. Because like I said, in order to truly understand a technique, could be punching, kicking, blocking, weapon technique, ground technique, submission, name it. Any kind of technique is good to understand how to defend against it. Now, once you know how to defend against it, then you have more understanding of it. Then you'll be able to implement it in a real situation, right? Also, as I said, training with a person, a moving target would be the best move, right? Let me give an example, right? It's like a gun, right? Put the bullets in there, right? Pull the trigger, the bullets fly out, right? If you don't practice how to shoot, go to the range, do simulation shooting, target practicing with that gun. That's the person now. If one day say you have to use that gun and you shoot at your opponent but none of the bullets hit him, does that mean that the gun is no good? The bullets are no good? It's like the gun doesn't work in a real life situation? No, it's the person that's pulling the trigger. The person who's aiming at where they're going to hit is the problem. It's not the gun. Well, that goes the same thing for martial art techniques, punching, kicking, weapon training, the same exact thing. It's not the kick, it's not the turning, it's not the spinning. It's the person that's spinning, it's the person that's actually doing the kicking or the punching. How many years of experience do you have in kicking and punching? Have you been in any competition? Have you used the techniques in a real life situation? How many years of training do you have? How much knowledge do you have of that kicking technique? That makes a big difference. That's where majority of the whole thing is, the whole concept is. It's never the style. It's not the kick or the punch. It's the person that's executing all the techniques. Could be from the katana sword, the kamas, nunchaku, sai, name it. Spinning back kick, spinning back fist, setting up techniques from the outside, footwork, movement, everything to do with martial arts itself. Everything to do with movement is all on the person that's doing the movement. So you could be kung fu, karate, jeet kune do, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, boxing, name it, any style. Yeah, you learn the techniques, different range of motion and kicking, but at the end of the day, it's that person that makes the technique happen, that makes the style happen. So the answer to the question is yes, spinning techniques, of course they're effective. Majority of martial art techniques are effective, right? You have to understand that a lot of people, when they don't understand something and they don't have the knowledge and they can't physically do it, they sometimes talk bad about it, right? They say, oh, that's foolishness, it doesn't work. And the reason why they're saying that because they themselves physically cannot do it. So whenever they cannot do something, they beat it down, right? So of course, spinning techniques are effective. Spinning back kick, spinning heel kick, spinning back fist. If you're spinning with the camel, you generate more power off the spin. No, you never want to turn your back to your opponent. That's common sense. You never want to give your back to your opponent, right? But your spin should be no more than a second. If that's how quick it should be. And as I said, that's all an experience and knowledge, understanding of the technique, training the technique, using it in a real life situation, using it in combat sports, using it in sparring consistently. The more you use it, the more you understand it. Whenever you have to use it, it comes natural to you. You don't think about it. You just feel the movement, right? So yeah, of course, these techniques work, right? Never make anybody tell you that you can't do something or that can't work because they can't do it. So they're going to tell you that it's not possible. That's basically limiting themselves, and that's limiting you, limiting your abilities. Because anything is possible once you put your mind to it and the consistency of the training, and you can vision it in your mind. Once you can see it in your head, then you'll be able to execute it. Just have to believe in yourself that you can do it and just consistently work on it. Now, a real life situation is different from combat sports now, because in a real life situation, there's no rules, there's no referee, no time limit. So when you're spinning in a real life situation, you have to know what you're doing. This is what I mean by the experience. Have you done that before in a real life situation? Have you pulled off the technique numerous of times where you have the confidence in executing it? Right? Now you have to use common sense now, because in a real life situation, there are weapons, there are guns, there are knives. There's probably more than one opponent you might have to fight, right? And maybe doing a spinning back kick, spinning a heel kick might not be the right choice of technique to execute at that moment. Maybe running might be the best move to do, right? So you also have to use common sense when you're going to execute a technique, a punch or kick, or any spinning moves, right? You have to know the environment that you're in. You have to look around and see your environment to see who you're dealing with and what you're dealing with at that point. And know that this is not a sport. It's not, you're not in a cage, you're not in a boxing ring, and you can lose your life. No, you could probably pull off the spinning move and then knock out the person in the street. Of course, anything is possible, as I mentioned. If you train the technique consistently, of course, and you could pull off the spinning back kick, spinning back kick, spinning heel kick, and knock out the person in the street easily. But then there's a risk involved in doing it. So that's what I'm saying. You have to use common sense. You have to look at your environment and see what's the best technique to implement at that moment. And sometimes it's not even any kicking or punching, just verbal. If you can talk your way out of something, anything in the street, if you can talk your way out of a fight in the street, that should be the first move, to talk your way out of it, if you can. If you can talk your way out of it and walk away, but never turn your back. Make sure you're walking, you're looking to make sure nobody's running behind you, to get you off guard, stab you in the back, bust you in the head with a bottle. You walk away from it. That's the first thing you learn. The art of fighting without fighting. Like what Bruce Lee said. If you don't have to fight, don't fight, especially on the street. That's the last place you want to get into a fight, because you never know what's going to happen. That's something that you can't predict, you know. There is no breakdown, and there's no referee, there's no weigh-ins and no time limit. You know what I'm saying? So anything you do or any moves you make, it could be your last move. What I'm saying? Because they're weapons. So I'm saying, yeah, of course, any technique is useful. All depends on you, the person. How much knowledge you have for training.